Is Zoro stronger than Luffy? Now, I'm gonna keep it real. I get this question asked a lot of times, mostly for a joke reason when it comes to Zoro. A lot of memes, a lot of jokes for Zoro. But yeah, this question has been asked to me many times throughout the times I've been in the One Piece community. And I'll tell you right now, the reason why this question is asked most of the times is because Luffy, in my opinion, is a battle genius, and Zoro is pretty much a swordsman genius, a crazy swordsman, a master swordsman. He's not the greatest swordsman, but he's very great when it comes to swordsmanship. This guy has 3 swords. You gotta give him some credit. And Luffy recently has shown most of his cards when it comes to his new abilities, while Zoro has been chilling and hasn't really gone all out. So these guys, there's a lot of information about these characters that people are thinking maybe. I will definitely look at both sides of the arguments and give my humble opinion on both these characters and who is the more powerful one and my reasons for my answer. Now, the first arc in which these characters were actually questioning their powers when I noticed is the Whiskey Peak arc. This arc had a crazy moment for Zoro. He took out all those bounty hunters, and pretty much this is why he got his huge bounty. One of the biggest reasons why he got his huge bounty, but definitely the crocodile situation when it comes to Da's bones. That was one of the other big ones, but Whiskey Peak was also put into the equation why he got that bounty. And then we had the situation where him and Luffy went at it in Whiskey Peak. They both battled, and it was surprising because this is a captain and an underling going at it, but it was a stalemate. And I think people are telling me that Oda stated at this point of the time that Luffy and Zoro were actually equal in strength. So this is for the equal side. A lot of people look at Whiskey Peak and say these characters are equal without looking at the future events after Whiskey Peak. And then there's Enies Lobby, and let's be honest here, Whiskey Peak is for the people who believe Zoro and Luffy are equal. Enies Lobby is for the people that think Luffy is stronger by Zoro and not even close. When it comes to Enies Lobby, Luffy brought out some crazy new attacks. Zoro did too, but we know that Luffy fought a way stronger opponent in Lucci. Lucci was stronger than Kaku, and it was a big difference because we know that Lucci had better moves when it comes to Rokushiki. His fruit power, he had it for longer. Kaku just received his double fruit while Lucci had it for a longer time. And his Doriki, Lucci was double Kaku when it comes to his Doriki. So there's 3 main components that showcase that Lucci was above Kaku. Kaku, I believe, was the second strongest, and he was competing with Jabba when it comes to 2 and 3, but Lucci, there was a huge difference, and this is why a lot of people said that Luffy and Zoro, there's a gap, and Luffy is stronger than Zoro. This is where a big chunk of the Luffy, big stronger than Zoro fans got it from. But then Thriller Bark happened. Yes, the arc immediately after Thriller Bark caused controversy, and I'll be honest here, this is my second favorite moment in the entire One Piece story. And let's be honest here, this is where people believe that Zoro actually surpassed Luffy, and it was shocking when I saw this, but people believe Zoro surpassed Luffy because he took all of Luffy's pain and he was still standing. And I will say this, I do not believe Zoro at this moment surpassed Luffy because of that. Let's be honest here, Zoro has always showcased that he had a crazy pain tolerance, and it wasn't surprising that Zoro was still standing up. There was a lot of blood, he took a lot of pain, and the consequences for that situation was shown throughout the series. Like, let's be honest here, when Luffy goes into a crazy battle and takes a lot of pain, maybe 3 or 4 days he sleeps, then he eats, and then he's good. But when it comes to Zoro at that moment, he took a couple of days of rest, then they went to Sabaody Shambandi, I don't know how you guys pronounce it, and that takes a couple of days. Then they went all the way to pretty much Luffy went to Impel Down, Marineford, and then he went to Sabaody, Amazon Lily to talk about Rayleigh, and then they went back to Marineford. A lot of time happened, and Zoro was still injured from that Luffy pain. So just because he took the pain doesn't mean he didn't feel the consequences. I definitely believe this moment wasn't a defining moment for Zoro to be stronger than Luffy, but there's a lot of the Zoro fans who believe this is the moment that is showcased that Zoro has surpassed Luffy. Moving on to post-time skip, Hody Jones. Hody Jones is definitely not a fan favorite. Honestly, he's one of the most hated characters in One Piece. Me personally, I don't really hate Hody Jones. I do think that he's a very interesting villain. The concepts around Hody Jones and pretty much the preaching about Hody Jones, how you can't like let the kids teach that same hate ideology. But I do want to say this, Zoro did beat Hody Jones when it comes to the fight. He beat him underwater. It was a very impressive showing, and this moment a lot of people are like, whoa, Zoro just beat the main villain easily underwater. And Luffy beat Hody Jones too, but it seemed a little bit longer than the way Zoro did it. Well, we honestly gotta look at it like this. Zoro beat a base Hody Jones underwater, and it was very impressive. And the Luffy, he beat a steroid Hody Jones. He was way stronger than his base form, and Luffy casually just destroyed him. Pretty much, Luffy was more focused on the Noah than actually Hody Jones with the Gatling he was given with the elephant gun. So definitely want to say that in this moment, there wasn't really a clear defining moment where you could say that Luffy surpassed Zoro, but some Zoro fans like to take it like that. Gear 4. I have to discuss Gear 4. And the reason why I have to discuss Gear 4 is because when Luffy pulled out Gear 4, it changed everything. And I will be honest here, I saw in the One Piece community, Zoro above Luffy was more stronger before this transformation, because when this transformation actually came out, a lot of people who said Zoro was stronger than Luffy apologized. And I saw a lot of people were shocked, they were backpedaling. And I will say this, Gear 4 was so devastating that it definitely would make you backpedal at the time. But recently we've seen Gear 4's vulnerability. It's not the most incredible transformation that we saw when we first saw it and so surprised. Gear 4 has definitely been in situations where it wasn't in the best times. Let's be honest, the recent fight we saw with Cracker, I definitely want to say this. Gear 4, when we first saw it, a lot of people backpedaled, and now recently the question has been coming back again. Gear 4, does that mean actually that there's a huge gap between him and Zoro? Zoro hasn't really shown anything. There's a huge question that I'm going to discuss in this video. I actually am discussing right now, and I'm about to answer soon. Before I actually answer this question, I want to talk about some quick little things, some mini things right here. A lot of people tell me that because Zoro is a swordsman, he's a problem to Luffy. And I actually just want to say this. Yes, because Zoro uses swords and Luffy, he gets damaged by swords and not blunt attacks, that is a problem to Luffy. But let's be honest here. Every human, other than Logi abilities or crazy hacks fruits, they are going to get damaged by swords. So Luffy is just like a regular person when it comes to Zoro and his swords. But we also got to understand, Zoro does take damage to blunt attacks and Luffy doesn't. So there's definitely a yin and yang thing right here. I do believe that Luffy has showcased that he's able to fight swordsmen in many situations. Like we saw early on in the Alabasta arc, Luffy was fighting Crocodile. And Crocodile is not a swordsman, but Crocodile used a move called Desert Spada, and it cut the whole desert. It was devastating, and Luffy had to dodge it because it would have cut Luffy. But Luffy in the same arc in the third fight actually used a Gama Gama no Storm and destroyed the Spada, and it was incredible. So I definitely believe that some people say because of his blood, he was on his hands, but I definitely believe this also showcased a very defining moment in Luffy battling sharp objects. And in the East Blue, even before the Alabasta arc, we saw Luffy do some devastating stuff. We remember the whole situation of Zoro versus Das Bones cutting steel. Well, Luffy actually broke steel in the East Blue arc when he actually broke Don Krieg, and it was pretty much over for Don Krieg, and that was a very incredible moment for Luffy early on. We also saw Luffy take on Arlong and destroy Arlong's shop weapon that just pretty much with his fingers he destroyed it, so that was very impressive. We also saw him destroy Arlong's nose. But yeah, this just showcased that pre-time skip, yes, pre-time skip, Luffy was in a very peculiar situation when it comes to swords, but now it's pre-time skip and he was doing it pretty well. Imagine post-time skip when you add armament Haki. Oh me, oh my, definitely armament Haki has changed a lot. Speaking of Haki, I want to discuss something real quick. A lot of people have taken this and run away with it. We also been noticed that Oda has stated that Luffy is a specialty when it comes to Conqueror's Haki, Zoro is a specialty when it comes to Armament Haki, and Sanji is special when it comes to Observation Haki. Now, honestly, a lot of people have said that because of this, Sanji is better than Luffy at Observation Haki, Zoro is better than Luffy in Armament Haki, and Luffy is only better than Conqueror's Haki. But honestly, it just kind of showcases that their specialty for their own individual self is that. But Luffy, just because his specialty is Conqueror's Haki, he still could have a stronger Armament Haki than Zoro and Sanji. So I definitely believe that we've seen Gear 4 and how crazy his Armament Haki was. We know Lost stated that he was doing too much Haki, but definitely I don't think just because Zoro's specialty is Armament Haki, I don't think it actually means that Luffy is less than Zoro when it comes to Armament Haki. That's just my thoughts on the subject at hand. The final things I want to talk about is actually Zoro's take on it. Let's be honest here, we have to look at Zoro and his personality in moments where he actually looks at Luffy, and I'll just want to say this, Fishman Island is one of the biggest moments. When Luffy used Conqueror's Haki to take out 50,000 fishmen, Zoro said, this is expected from my captain. If he wasn't able to do this, I would have been disappointed. I probably would have been gone. So definitely Zoro pretty much saying that in Fishman Island, Luffy had to be at that level. He's kind of saying that Luffy has to be at an extreme level to actually become for me to be an underling to him. So crazy stuff. And then we saw Punk Hazard when Zoro found out that Luffy lost to Caesar Clown. Zoro was pissed off. He actually yelled to his captain Luffy, stop effing around, stop joking around. And it's showcased, and Luffy kind of acknowledged that. That's the respect for Zoro has to his captain. He wants Luffy to always be leading them, because let's be honest, he said this all the way in Water 7. This is his captain. You have to respect him, and he has a respect for Luffy. And if that respect goes, Zoro is adios. I'm out of here. This ain't no joke. But I also believe the most epic moment for me when it comes to Zoro and Luffy acknowledging their powers is Dressrosa. Pika was trying to take out Luffy, and Zoro stopped Pika, and he said to him such crazy words, you're not even worth fighting my captain. What that pretty much says is Zoro is putting Luffy on a higher pedestal than himself. He's pretty much saying that you can't fight this dude, so I'll fight you, I'll stop you, because you're not even worthy of fighting my captain. And Zoro has that ideology of Luffy's the captain, Luffy's above me, and it was very shocking. Now people might say Zoro just saying this because Luffy's the captain. It doesn't really talk about their strength, but when it comes to personality wise, looking at Zoro, this is very telling. So you guys want to know my opinion, is Zoro stronger than Luffy? I personally disagree that Zoro is stronger than Luffy. I just don't think that that's how the story would go personally, though I do think Wano's Zoro will show something so crazy it will close in the gap to Luffy, because Gear 4th kind of made a gap a little bit wider. And I believe when he shows his crazy move in Wano, that maybe an eye attack, I'm not too sure, that's going to close in the gap, make it closer, and then Luffy will have to be on the clock to use a crazy move to make the gap a little wider. That's just my thoughts. I believe Luffy is stronger than Zoro. I definitely believe that Zoro at times is at the point where you could say maybe pre-time skip he was equal to Luffy, but right now I got Luffy above him, and that's just my thoughts on the subject at hand. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think about Zoro and Luffy? Do you think that Zoro has surpassed Luffy because he's not showcasing his abilities? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section. Like and share if you enjoyed, like and share only if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more One Piece content. I'm the LegendMac, and I'm gone.